Japanese scientists are now taking a stand, urging international prosecutors to bring a case of crimes against humanity against Gates. Among them, world-renowned experts like Dr. Fukushima are raising the alarm, revealing shocking discoveries that some vaccines contain abortion drugs designed for depopulation. They warn that there is overwhelming evidence suggesting Gates isn't finished yet. He has plans to inflict even more harm in the near future. It's time for the world to unite and bring him to justice, calling for the immediate removal of COVID-19 mRNA injections from the market. He describes these vaccines as the work of evil, equating their impact to essentially murder. Dr. Fukushima is shining a light on the truth. The global elite are evil, and figures like Bill Gates, Anthony Fauci, and the big pharma executives who pushed this disastrous nanotechnology are nothing short of mass murderers.
You're a doctor, you know better than I, but I've studied I mean, they just have a real problem killing people with medicine. They're pissed.
You're right, and I've worked with the Japanese for years. I have an active project with them right now, and they have the highest integrity. And they have called this now from the very beginning. You know, they did studies with the Olympics showing that routine PCR testing was completely bogus, Alex. They called it there. Now they've returned millions of vials of Moderna and Pfizer because of visible contaminants. Now the Japanese calling for all the vaccines to be taken off world markets.
But the courageous efforts of world-leading research scientists like Dr. Fukushima are now under threat from the new Japanese government, which appears to have fallen under the sway of Big Pharma's poisonous influence. Despite widespread protests from the scientific community and the will of the people, the Japanese government has chosen to let Big Pharma use its citizens as guinea pigs for a new generation of RNA vaccines. Vaccines that experts are warning have not been properly tested. On September the 28th, 30,000 passionate individuals took to the streets of Tokyo, closing off city blocks in a powerful demonstration against the government's tyrannical decision to prioritize profit over public safety. Dr. Robert Malone has just returned from Tokyo, where he attended the rally of 30,000 people protesting against the experimental new self-replicating RNA vaccines. As Dr. Malone points out, the big pharma companies behind these RNA vaccines are embracing a full New World Order mentality, threatening to seek out and destroy anybody who dares to speak out against their experimental gene therapy. Their goal is clear. They want to silence us and prevent us from warning the public about the dangers posed by the global elite and their accomplices in Big Pharma. We must not be intimidated, and we have to keep fighting for the truth.
So here's what's going on. I just came back from Tokyo where they had a 30,000 person rally because they're about to deploy self-replicating RNA vaccines. Japan is being used as the guinea pigs for the world for this new technology. The Japanese people are calling this the third atomic bomb. This is being deployed in a cooperative agreement between a U.S. company, Arcturus, a Australian company called CSL, and a Japanese company. Now, the CEO of the Japanese company recently gave a press conference. What did he say? He said, anybody that is spreading misinformation, we're going to go after him legally. We're going to try to have them jailed. If you say anything against their self-replicating RNA vaccine technology that's never been rigorously tested, we don't know if it's going to infect other people. We don't know if it's going to spread. We know it's going to replicate. We don't know if it's going to get into the brain of the elders in Japan. But we do know that if we say anything about these concerns, the CEO is going to come after us and try to put us in jail. That's the new world order. That's what we're coming into. That's what they want to implement on us. They want to shut us down. They want to prevent us from speaking. They want to completely control the narrative, and they want to be able to deploy psychological warfare on all of you to control you, to train you to respond to the fear narratives about avian influenza and monkeypox and whatever it is they want to deploy next in order to control you, in order to teach you to shut up, sit down, stay in your homes, and do what you're told. Now, I'm not okay with that. I don't think you're okay with that. And I hope that you join all of us in fighting this new tyranny.
Many people are still refusing to see the globalist elite for what they really are. They want to believe Bill Gates is a philanthropist, and if he accidentally sterilized half of Western Africa and Asia, then it must have been an accident. They want to believe the World Economic Forum are committed to improving the state of the world. But there's plenty of evidence that these people are murderous psychopaths. Depopulation and eugenics are taboo subjects that provoke horror and disgust in ordinary people with normal values and morals. Many people avoid confronting the uncomfortable truth about our enemies. That's why we've compiled this critical information. It reveals their chilling intent to eliminate the majority of us and sterilize the rest.
The doctors were unanimous. He was going to die of small cell lung cancer.
Once that kind of cancer goes that far afield, the odds of survival are less than 1%, and the median life expectancy is 3 months.
Tippin says he got a tip, not from a pharmacist, but a veterinarian. And in his desperation, he turned from people medicine to dog medicine. Specifically, fembendazole.
My insurance company spent $1.2 million on me with traditional means before I switched to a $5 a week medicine that actually saved me.
Get 15% off using coupon code People's Voice at the checkout. Please click the link below this video or call 256-664-4170 to take advantage of this fantastic offer. Embalmers are coming forward to blow the whistle and prove that the global death surge is not natural, and the corpses of the deceased vaccine recipients contain all the proof that is needed to hold those who pushed the vaccines to account.
September the 30th, 2024, and here are 7 different people represented in these test tubes, and this is clinical waste that I'm about to dispose of. But these are 7 different people who came in to us and were embalmed, and during that process this spilled out of their arteries onto our embalming table tray and was kept, and I'm documenting it now before disposing of this clinical waste to prove to people that this is coming out of deceased vaccine recipients. Each one represents a person murdered by the state who will never see justice unless we get it for them. And I devote my life into getting that justice for them. This has got to stop.
COVID-19 mRNA vaccines were designed as abortion drugs to quietly and deceitfully sterilize vast swathes of the human race. But don't take my word for it. That's according to a Gates Foundation insider who has admitted that the Gates vaccine trials in Africa and India, in which thousands of children were sterilized, were trial runs for the mRNA vaccine rollout in the Western world. It's no secret that the WHO has been working on anti-fertility vaccines since the 1970s. Papers were published, and the WHO itself was even forced to admit it. But that was after they had already sterilized millions of women and girls around the world without informed consent. If you know anybody who still thinks Bill Gates and the World Health Organization wouldn't intentionally sterilize the world with abortion drugs, you should tell them that they've been caught doing it twice before. Doctors in Kenya accused UNICEF, the World Health Organization, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation of playing God and sterilizing millions of women in Africa via the tetanus vaccine program. And they backed up their accusations with proof. Dr. Stephen K. Karanja, former chairman of the Kenya Catholic Doctors Association, became suspicious of the program when he learned that involuntary sterilization programs posing as tetanus programs had occurred in other parts of the world. Dr. Karanja asked himself the question that everybody in the world should be asking themselves in the wake of the COVID-19 vaccine push. If they have slipped abortion drugs into vaccines before, why should I believe them when they say they aren't doing it now? At the time, Karanja convinced one of the largest healthcare providers in Kenya to test the tetanus vaccine being given, to make sure that there was no foul play involved. But guess what? This supposed tetanus vaccine perfectly matched an anti-fertility vaccine the WHO had announced in 1993. The paper trail reveals that by 1976, WHO researchers had successfully conjugated HCG onto tetanus toxoid, used in the tetanus vaccine. As a result, when given to a woman, she develops antibodies against both tetanus and HCG. HCG is a hormone that is produced as soon as the sperm enters the egg and the embryo begins to form. In response to this signal, the woman's ovaries then produce progesterone, which maintains the pregnancy to term. The conjugated vaccine effectively ends and prevents pregnancy, as her own immune system will immediately attack and destroy the HCG as soon as it forms. In other words, every woman who was injected with Gates and the WHO's tetanus vaccine was unable to ever bear children. Gates wasn't joking when he said that if we do a good job with vaccines and healthcare, then we can reduce the world's population.
First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
That same year, 1995, the Philippines actually won a court order halting a UNICEF tetanus program that was using tetanus vaccines laced with HCG. Anti-HCG laced vaccines had also been found in at least 4 other countries. Fearing that the world was waking up to their crimes, the WHO abandoned the 1995 campaign. But in 2014, they were back with a neonatal tetanus program. And the shameless depopulationists were up to their old tricks again. Girls and women, 15 to 49 years of age, were instructed to get vaccinated with a series of 5 injections, 6 months apart. Suspiciously, this is the exact schedule required for the anti-fertility vaccine to produce sterility. Regular tetanus prevention requires only 1 injection every 5 to 10 years, and under no circumstances would you need 5 of them. The health provider again decided to test the vaccines and collected 3 sample vials directly from clinics during the 2014 campaign. The samples were tested by 3 independent laboratories and, as feared, they contained HCG. Another 6 vials were then collected and tested. This time, half were found to contain HCG. So, ask yourself, if the globalist elite have been caught sterilizing the masses by vaccines in Africa and Asia, why should you believe anything they say about the COVID vaccines they pushed on the rest of the world in such a deceitful manner?
You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
These psychopaths lie to you about everything to terrorize you into getting the shots, including the vaccination status of people who are hospitalized.
There is a clear message that is coming through. This is becoming a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
And we're seeing it in the data. Unvaccinated Americans account for virtually all recent COVID-19 hospitalizations and deaths.
We still, to this day, do not have data on people who are coming into the hospitals who are vaccinated. That is a data point that we have lacked.
I'm sure you've seen the massive uptake in news stories about young and healthy people dying of heart attacks, strokes, and clots since the massive propaganda campaign of the vaccine rollout. Many of these people are young professional athletes in their prime. A study published in the medical journal Clinical Research in Cardiology confirmed that the vaccine does cause deadly heart problems and provides an answer for why so many people, including the young, fit and healthy, have been dying suddenly and unexpectedly in the last few years. Military doctors have also blown the whistle on the devastating effects of the forced COVID-19 vaccinations on American troops. According to the whistleblowers, medical billing code data captured by the Defense Medical Epidemiology Database, which is run by the DoD, shows that the rates of miscarriage, myocarditis, cancer, Bell's palsy, infertility, and many more serious health conditions have skyrocketed since the vaccines were made mandatory. Cancer rates are particularly concerning, they say, as the normal average number of new cases per year is about 38,000. But in 2021, after Operation Warp Speed was launched, the number of new cancer cases tripled to nearly 115,000. Depopulation isn't just about ending the lives of those who are already here. It's about stopping future generations from ever being born. Sperm counts in men from North America, Europe and Australia are declining so quickly that most men in these countries will be infertile by the year 2060, according to disturbing new research from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Sperm counts in men from Western countries plunged by 50 to 60% between 1973 and 2011, with the trend set to continue until men are completely infertile. Interestingly, the study found no decline in sperm counts in men from Africa, South America and Asia, parts of the world less dominated by big pharma, vaccines, GMOs and toxic highly processed food. Evidence tends to get ignored by governments when they're bought and paid for by big pharma and the global elites. The same applies to the media. Good luck getting a negative story about Bill Gates in the mainstream news. But the tide is turning against them. Humanity is waking up to their evil plans, and investigations are being launched to expose them for what they really are. According to Russian President Vladimir Putin, the COVID-19 virus was a bioweapon developed by the elites. He says Russia's defense ministry is investigating the role of the US Agency for International Development, USAID, in the creation of the COVID virus. In the US, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is also holding an inquiry into the devastating consequences of the vaccine rollout. The elite's house of cards is falling down. Governments and regulators are now being forced to take this seriously. And it's all thanks to the brave doctors and scientists in Japan, who don't accept that medicine should be killing people.